This CEO made one decision that cost his company $40 billion. One single choice, praised by investors, applauded by analysts, and yet, within 18 months, tens of billions in value quietly disappeared. On paper, this decision looked smart. Investors praised it. Analysts called it strategic. But the damage didn't happen overnight. It happened slowly, because one decision quietly removed leverage when it mattered most. This story isn't just about a single CEO or a single company. It's about how intelligent, experienced leadership can still make decisions that feel safe in the moment, but catastrophic in hindsight. Because most corporate failures don't begin with bad intentions. They begin with reasonable compromises, made under pressure, when momentum is high and warning signs feel inconvenient. At its peak, General Electric wasn't just a company, it was a symbol. For decades, GE represented American industrial dominance, a company spanning aviation, healthcare, energy, and manufacturing. Its reach was so broad that many investors believed it was nearly recession-proof. Under CEO Jeff Immelt, GE was still viewed as a titan. The stock traded high. Institutional money stayed loyal, and the company carried a reputation for stability and discipline. But inside the organization, leadership felt pressure. Margins were tightening. Competition was becoming faster and more global. And the traditional industrial model no longer delivered the growth Wall Street expected. So GE looked for a way to smooth earnings and maintain momentum without sacrificing scale. That solution came from finance. GE Capital had already been a profitable arm of the company. It provided lending, leasing, and financial services tied to GE's industrial products. At first, it supported the core business. But over time, something subtle changed. GE wasn't just using finance to support manufacturing anymore. It began depending on it. GE Capital grew larger, more complex, and more profitable than many of GE's industrial divisions. Its returns helped mask weaknesses elsewhere. When manufacturing underperformed, finance filled the gap. On the surface, this looked like smart diversification, but in reality, it introduced a dangerous dependency. GE's success became increasingly tied not to products or innovation, but to the stability of global credit markets. This was the crack. The decision to rely on GE Capital didn't look reckless at the time. It looked logical, it boosted earnings, it pleased investors, and it delayed hard internal conversations. But it also quietly removed flexibility. GE built a system that worked exceptionally well in stable conditions, but poorly under stress. When the 2008 financial crisis hit, that weakness was exposed almost immediately. Credit markets froze, liquidity vanished, and suddenly, GE Capital was no longer a strength. It became a liability. The same division that once smoothed earnings now required emergency support. GE was forced to cut its dividend, sell assets at unfavorable prices, and seek government backing just to stabilize operations. Investor confidence collapsed. The market realized that what looked like a diversified industrial empire was actually over-leveraged and overexposed to financial risk. Within a short period of time, tens of billions of dollars in market value disappeared. Not because GE stopped being intelligent, not because leadership lacked experience, but because leverage had quietly shifted long before the crisis arrived. By the time pressure hit, there were no good options left. This is how large companies fail. Not with one loud mistake, but with a series of quiet decisions that feel safe until conditions change. The lesson here isn't to avoid risk, and it's not to reject diversification. The real lesson is understanding where your leverage comes from and what happens when you give it away without realizing it. Leverage isn't about size, it's about options. GE didn't collapse because it took a chance. It struggled because it built a system that only worked under perfect those conditions disappeared, the empire had nowhere to pivot. But the story of GE isn't just a cautionary tale for billion-dollar companies. It's a lesson for anyone making decisions under pressure. Leverage exists everywhere, in business, in money, in time, and even in relationships. When you rely too heavily on one source of stability, you quietly reduce your options. And when unexpected challenges arrive, the cost of that dependence becomes clear. The leaders in companies that survive uncertainty aren't always the biggest or the fastest. They're the ones who preserve flexibility. They protect optionality. They keep room to pivot when conditions change. So ask yourself, where is your leverage? What are you depending on that could disappear? And what can you do today to protect your flexibility tomorrow? Because power isn't usually lost loudly. It's lost quietly, long before the collapse becomes visible. And here's the part most people miss. The most dangerous decisions don't feel dangerous when you make them. They feel reasonable. They feel safe. They feel like the logical next step everyone else would take. That's why leverage is so hard to protect, because giving it up often feels like progress. GE didn't wake up one day and decide to gamble the company. They optimized, they smoothed earnings, they met expectations, they delayed discomfort. And in doing so, they slowly traded flexibility for stability. This happens everywhere. In careers, in businesses, in personal finances, in relationships. People take the promotion that limits future options. They take the debt that locks them into one outcome. They stay comfortable instead of adaptable. And none of it feels wrong at the time. Until conditions change. Until pressure arrives. Until the world stops behaving the way it always has. That's when leverage matters. Not when things are calm, but when they aren't. Real leverage is the ability to say no. It's the ability to walk away. It's the ability to wait while others panic. And once it's gone, it's rarely easy to get back. So the question isn't, what decision makes sense right now? The real question is, what decision keeps my options open when the environment changes? Because success that only works under perfect conditions isn't real power. And stability that requires constant cooperation from the world is fragile. That's the quiet truth behind leverage. And understanding it before pressure